Jupiter Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Franklin, and today I have on the wonderful Mr. Bruce Brown, and we're going to talk things of his experiences of Sasquatch, his research, and things that he's come to find out over the years of doing this. If you keep finding yourself coming back to the channel, or if you're new here, please do me a favor and like and subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, hit that bell notification so you get all those kind of things. You get to see all the episodes. Every Friday we have a live show. Every Tuesday we have a pre-recorded show just like this one. And you can also find me on over on all your MP3 Apple and Spotify and all those kind of things. You can go ahead and find all those links are in the description below. If you want to get a t-shirt, there's all those kind of things are down there as well. So with all those things out of the way, let's please welcome to the show, Mr. Bruce Brown.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going, sir. How are you doing today? I'm doing fine. We'll get there. Oh, yeah. So it was pretty interesting. I found you. I reached out over at Daryl Denton's group, amongst many others, Ron Moorhead and others and the like. And I said, I'm looking for people to come and talk about Sasquatch. And you contacted me. So yeah, it's pretty interesting that you would do so. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. So Bruce, do me a favor. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how this began for you, and what can you tell us about Sasquatch and others?
Well, I'm a retired LEO law enforcement officer, hurt in the line of duty. Retired now, obviously. And my first encounter was when I was 8 years old. We had come in. My daddy was in the military, and we'd come in for the summer vacation back to his home place here in Tennessee. And I was out flying a kite that day, trying to fly a kite. Couldn't get it in the air. Made several attempts. Keep in mind, I was 8 years old. And these three apes walked out in the edge of the hayfield watching me. So I went into to the house and told Grandma I couldn't get my kite up. So she said, well, you ain't got a tail on it. And so she tore her bed sheet and made me 3 links of tail on it. And I took it back out there and was flying it. And these apes were constantly watching the kite. They weren't paying that much attention to me. So when I got done, I went back in the house and I was telling my grandmother about them. She says, that's not apes. And I said, well, I believe it is, because me and my daddy, we watched Wild Kingdom every Sunday. And they were apes to me. I didn't know at that time that they were hairy people or Sasquatch. So she explained to me that there's nothing like that in Tennessee. So a week later, we went to my great-grandmother, who was a Cherokee Indian. We went to check on her. And then my grandmother had told her what I had seen. So she sat me down and talked to me and explained to me. What I seen was a hairy man. It wasn't an ape. We don't have those here in Tennessee. So that was my first encounter, not knowing it was actually an encounter.
Right.
At 8 years old, I wasn't scared of them because, on the Wild Kingdom, as long as you don't look them in the face or go around them, stay a distance, they're just watching me fly a kite. No big deal. To me, I was more into the kite than I was the
apes. Okay, which makes sense. I remember flying my first kite. It's pretty cool. Unless your wife tells you to go fly a kite, that's something different.
So at 12 years old, we had gone fishing, and we were in the back waters of the Cumberland River. And it was me and my parents and my other siblings. And on the opposite side, we seen another group come out. And then I was still, I wasn't a believer in the hairy man stuff, but, it's just, I'm 12 years old. I didn't buy the story. So we were fishing. They wandered off on down and went into the woods. So more or less cattails, and then went into the woods. So I went around the bank on that side. There's this massive tracks, which is apes. And I had that encounter involved one that was probably not much bigger than me that come out within feet of me, just out of
Wow.
curiosity, watching me. And so that was my that was my second encounter. So that lasted probably 45 minutes. They were
Wow.
more curious than anything else. So I remembered what my grandmother told me the weeks before if I'm taking anything from the land, whatever it be, to leave it something. And that's a truth offering. And just out of curiosity, I'd caught a bluegill. And so I just pitched it out on the bank behind me. And it come down and picked it up and went in the woods. And I didn't see it again that day.
Wow, you actually seen it come and retrieve it.
It come right down.
Wow.
You know, I'm 12 years old, so I probably threw it 20 feet from me. So it come down, and it wasn't much bigger than me. You know, it's a young one. You know, so again, me thinking this is an ape. You know, I wasn't scared of it. And
And
the
you were
encounters
Bruce.
after that.
Bruce, you were by
Yeah.
yourself when this happened. You were by yourself fishing.
No, my parents were on the other side. I was over there on
Okay.
that side fishing with them. This is the
Okay.
backwater, and I had walked
Okay.
around to that side
Oh, okay. Okay.
after I had seen them over there, but they had left and gone back into what we call cattails, woods on the backside of that. So I just walked around there and I seen the big prints and stuff, and then, like I said, didn't pay a lot of attention to it. And then started fishing and caught some bluegill. And when that one come out, I seen it come out, and it was just watching me. It was a small one. And then I had remembered what my grandmother said, so I just out of curiosity picked one up and one of the bluegill up and threw up there to it, which wasn't more than 20 feet. And it walked down there and who just bent down like you would do a squat and picked it up and stood back up and walked back into the cattails. And I hadn't seen them since that day. You know,
That's incredible. That's incredible.
so
Yep.
that
So it
was
started from an early age for you. I mean, like, like it seems like
right.
they just were not afraid of you or felt something about it. It's
Well,
interesting.
I
It's
didn't
interesting.
I didn't have any fear of them. They couldn't sense any fear because I had no fear. You know, it's just
Right.
to me it was
Right.
you know, it was just with a wild kingdom. Let's don't look them in the eyes, don't charge them or make sudden gestures, and I just remembered stuff like that.
Right.
And so I didn't actually believe in Bigfoot. I didn't. I knew these were apes, so it was no big deal for me. And then the encounters just kept coming. It seems like every time I went somewhere, I'd run across them. And then it become I started asking, you know, the elderly people in the communities and stuff about it. And they would explain if you had a good spirit about you, but they wouldn't bother you. They would, and you were more able to see them. And so it went from there. And then I got a call from a school superintendent when I was a young man that I had hunted on his property previously. Said he was having problems with a bus driver and some kids seeing a bear and a cub cross the road. So he told me where it was and the bus driver's name, and I knew the bus driver. So I went to his house, talked to him, and he said, "Yeah, about 6:20 to 6:30 every morning, this bear and her cub cross the road." So he gave me the location and stuff, and so I went up and talked to the landowner who actually owned the land, and I knew him too, and so got with him. Well, he wants to go now. He's a park ranger, so he wants to go too because there wasn't supposed to be any bears around in that vicinity in the last 100 years. So
Okay.
we get together, and he wants to go that night. And I've got a Johnny Walker game collar, and it's got a big speaker on it. It's one of the backpack deals, the older styles. So I told him I'd take it. We would go in there above his barn. He'd moved his cows about 2 weeks before that to another farm because he had two come up dead. So he was telling his brother-in-law, which was married to his sister, they owned a farm next to mine. And so he worked for Ford Motor Company, had a brand new Ford four-wheel drive truck. So his son, who was about 18 years old, wanted to go with us. So we agreed to, all of us, when we met up at a certain time after dark. It was in January, really cold. So we pull up to the barn, and we've got a quilt, and we put the guns on top of the cab of the truck, and we're standing in the cab. We leave this young boy behind the steering wheel of the truck, and just out of precaution there, and plus we got to hand him our spotlight cord to put in the cigarette lighter. He's got to make sure we don't pull that out. We do plug it back in.
Okay.
And so we started this game call of a dying jackrabbit. We started seeing movement out in front of us. We're pulled in this property on the upper side of the barn, but we're backed in. So me and the man in the back, who was an elderly gentleman, had a clear shot, and we were shining the spotlight that way. So as soon as I seen something move out in front of us, I told him to cut the spotlight on. He cut the spotlight on, and I was ready we had a 22 double barrel shotgun, a 30-06, and a 308 deer rifles, hunting rifles. And when we done that, I seen a coyote. And so I went to take a bead on the coyote to shoot the coyote. And back then, fur brought good money. And we were there, though, we were thinking it was a pack of wild dogs that had killed his cows. It wasn't anything to do with a bear because it didn't have any claw marks on it or tore up like that. So we were thinking just a pack of wild dogs. Back then, that wasn't really common. So I'm up, got my gun up, ready to take the shot on this coyote, and we hear this god awful holler. It was so intense. It sounded like a 2,000-pound bull bellers, but it was so much deeper, and it vibrated us. And we were like, well, hold on a minute. So we shined the spotlight up there where we heard it, and we heard trees breaking and stuff, and there's screaming going on. So at this time, the recorder was still playing this dying jackrabbit call. So the guy in the front seat, the young man in the front seat, he starts to turn it down, and I whispered and told him, no, don't turn it down. And as I turned back around, this thing had stepped out in the field. Now, it was probably 100 yards, 75 to 100 yards from us. When it come out in this field, it was so massive, and it just tore out running towards us. And it was coming so fast, the only thing we could do was try to shoot it. There weren't no getting out of the back of the truck and putting guns in the truck, getting in the truck. There was no time. It was that quick. So I grabbed a 308, got him in my lens of the scope. He grabbed his 30-06, got him in the lens of his scope. We're getting ready to pull the trigger because this thing he's already there. He's on top of us. He's within 20 yards, and he's closing quick. Well, he stops and lets out this terrible scream, and it just went through us, and our bodies locked up. We could not pull the trigger. We couldn't release the guns. We were just locked. Excuse me. We were just locked. And then the boy that was driving the truck could see through the mirrors where our spotlight was on it. He just drove off. We're standing back of the truck. Well, our guns that's on the cab of the truck that fell off in the bed. We have lost our balance, and both of us have fell against the tailgates and have dropped our guns in the bed. And I'm going over the tailgate. The elderly gentleman, Mr. Shanks, he catches me, pulls me back in. So we come out of the barnyard. We left the gate open. We hit the road and made a left and was going down the road. And this kid in this new truck, I mean, he was moving on. We was probably on a gravel road like that doing 35 or 40. Well, I am scrambling trying to find her guns. And this thing lets out another holler. When we look back, he's behind the truck probably 30 yards and he's running us. So we come around the curve and we get into a straight stretch and he's gaining on us.
Holy
So
crap.
and this boy, he just keeps getting faster and faster. By the time we got to 50 mile an hour, the truck was just weaving all over this dirt road. We just wanted to get in. And that's when the hairy man started losing speed.
I'll take care of it.
And we get to his house, the young boy's house that we bought that had loaned us his new truck. Boy jumps out of the truck, he runs in the house. And father comes out. What happened? We told him. We told him what happened. Their mother comes out screaming. Something wrong with her son. So we run in there and he's in shock. So he thinks this thing's still going to come to their house.
Right.
So we get him in there and we get calmed down. She fixes us all hot chocolate. And I look at the older gentleman there that was with us. And I said, we got to go back and get our guns. He's like, I'm not going. I said, this is your farm. I mean, you can't just run off and leave it. He said, I'm not going back. So after talking to him for a couple hours, and the son, he was just out. He was just out of it. And so we go. I talked Mr. I'll use his last name. I talked Mr. Shanks into going back with me to retrieve our guns. But we waited till daylight, about 7:30 in the morning. We went back and got our guns. And of course, we had one that was broken. And we looked down and there's massive tracks. When we come out on the road and made that left turn going down that dirt road, there was tracks all the way down through there where it run through that mud in the barnyard and come out on the road with muddy feet. So it followed just probably 2/3 of the way to these people's house.
Okay.
And then after that, I become infatuated with them, and it was a curiosity.
Yeah.
And I wanted to understand why some of them were that aggressive and why
Right.
some were gentle. So what I figured over the years, what I'd done was unintentionally aggravated it by using that dying rabbit call. I provoked it, not knowing, and we truly believed we were going to get killed that night. You know?
Wow. Wow. That's terrifying, man. That's terrifying. And even after this experience, you still found like a way to still want to know about them, because I'd imagine some people, when after something like that happening, they're just like, that's good enough for me. I don't need to find out any more about that.
Well, I didn't trap. Let me back that up. I didn't go back in the woods and hunt probably for a couple of years. I stay close to the roads, trapping
Okay.
in the creeks and
Yeah.
rivers. And then I come across
Right.
another, they call them clan, I call them nuclear families, that paid
Okay.
no attention to me and there was no aggression whatsoever. So the only thing I could figure out with this one was I provoked it unintentionally.
Yeah.
We
And
went there.
also,
Yeah, we went there because bus drivers, people said that there was a bear and a bear cub. We went there basically looking for a pack of wild dogs, to be honest with you. And the bear, if we seen it, we weren't going to shoot it. We just scare it off by shooting in the air. And
right.
because
Yeah, it's an
that's,
accident.
yeah. because that's a protected species. If it would have been there, we'd have been in the wrong to shoot it. And
Correct.
so our intentions, when we looked at when me and Mr. Shanks looked at the cattle, it was obvious because I'd lived in Alaska, and even as a kid, I'd seen bear attacks on carcasses of caribou and moose and stuff, and it was nothing like that. The animals really didn't have any marks on them other than their tongues and their bellies were eaten out. And that, but there was no big claw marks like a bear with something would leave.
Was there also blood on the ground as well?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Right, because I'm not just because cattle mutilations is something a little bit different that where like there's no blood around. It just I had to ask. Just a question that came to my head.
A lot of times your smaller animals like your possums and stuff will eat the rear end out and go inside the guts and stuff.
Right.
And then you have your birds, your crows and stuff will pick the eyes out and eat those, and then they'll eat the tongue. But this one was ripped open, and it was smaller canines. It was nothing comparable to a bear, in its stomach area. It was eaten out in the soft parts, so clearly wasn't a bear. So we can't. After that happened, the man that owned the cattle swears up and down it had to be the Bigfoot that killed him, but we had no proof of that.
Right.
We had no proof. What they were seen crossing the road, I went back to the bus driver. He was an elderly gentleman. And I told him, I said, "Was you being truthful with me? Because I don't think you were." And he said, "Well, I have never seen a bear in real life. I've only seen them on TV. I know they stand up. But at this certain place where I told you to go, every morning around 6:20 to 6:30, it walked across the road." I said, "Did both of them walk?" And he was like, "No, just the mama would walk and the cub would come across." And I said, "So you had a clear enough picture, for sure it's a bear?" He said, "Well," he told me, he said, "Well, Bruce, I don't want to sound crazy, but I never thought it was a bear to start with. The kids said it was a bear. I'd seen bear on TV, and I'd seen bears stand on their hind legs, so I went along with it. And when I got to school, I told the principal, and the principal called the superintendent, and he recommended you because he knows you. And I hunted to see what it was."
Yeah, the children are just using a frame of reference, and
Right.
so they're just they wouldn't even fathom something like that. So they're using something that would be something they would maybe understand. And so when you go out there looking for this thing and you're using that hair call, and then you're out there, with your weapons, how they're not a big fan of weapons.
Exactly.
That would definitely provoke an attack. That's I've never heard of running down the road behind a vehicle yet. That's a new one on me. That's
He was
fascinating.
it was a giant male. He was in a rage. Something we done, whether it was a jackrabbit call or the spotlight, something we done set it off. And of course, that particular year, we had 3 weeks of busting cold weather that stayed around 0 at night to below 0.
Wow.
So
how this large male? I mean, how big was it? Because you hear stories between 8.5, and sometimes you hear like I don't know, what you've seen, but I've heard them up to like 10, 12 feet.
well, this one, to give you an idea, this one had a 21-inch track by
That's a big boy. Whoa.
11 inches across. So here I was at that age. I wore a 10, and I could put my boot print in sideways across the width of it, not the length, the width. So that was a massive creature. Now he was solid. He was solid black. The eye portion was much further apart. The nose was somewhat flat, but did extend just a little bit. The mouth wasn't like ours. The mouth come up around here. further around, almost to where the jaw,
Oh,
where your jaw bones are. So I after I had a picture of it uh, that we had managed to get on a Polaroid camera that the boy took looking through the mirror. He took in the front seat looking through a big side mirror and took it
right.
by looking through the mirror behind us. So I'm just assuming that's just the way they are, because over the years I've seen many like that, and where I guess their mouth can open a lot wider like that
That is
to
so
take,
interesting. And that's
you
the
know.
Tennessee area. I was listening to Daryl Denton talk about his first experience on his grandfather's farm, and he said that the mouth was bigger and wider and opened up. Did this one have like the conical head on it too, or was it normal shaped?
No, it was conical head. It was
Okay.
uh it had out of all of them I've seen over the years, it probably had the most hair on it, the longest hair. So
Wow.
it was just a massive. Uh, you could see when it was running us down the road, you could see the muscular about it.
Right.
But it did have a I want to call a weave in the top of its hair.
Oh, like a braid.
It was like a braid. I don't know if that was matted hair or braided, but it was uh, like single braids of hair with multiple braids in it, just singled, you know. So it was quite
That's
unique.
interesting. That is not the first time I've heard that.
You know, it was quite unique, but I had never encountered one so aggressive before, and I've never encountered one that aggressive since then.
Okay. So after this happens, Bruce, did you start? So what did you start doing? Did you start going out and talking to farmers, or they start contacting you? I know in being a law enforcement, you probably couldn't come forward to to the whatever, I don't know, whatever it is, the lead police officer in your precinct or whatever that word is.
Yeah,
I'm former
yeah,
military myself. I don't know. We call it chain of command. I
you
can't go to
done.
my my sergeant, and
Yeah.
how did you start?
Well,
Where did you begin? Did you tell anybody?
well, you have to do incident reports in law enforcement when you run across them. Now that's left up to your camp commanding officer to file them, or if they go to the military. If they go to the military, then that's the end of it. You'll never see it again. Your reports disappear. Everything's gone.
Wow,
Right.
interesting, interesting. That must be. And you're seeing this from the inside, knowing that you're the one who made the report and not hearing any feedback, and then probably following up on it, seeing what happened to it or what's being discussed or decided upon, and then they're disappearing.
Right, it disappears. I mean, even the cases that well, I didn't work, but showed up on the scene to assist, that belonged to another officers. Would one particular one hit over here in Macon County, Tennessee, was a man hit it with a car, and we were out there working the scene. It didn't kill it; it broke its legs, and there was a debate on whether to put it down or not, but we
Oh
decided
my
not
God.
to, and so we contacted another agency, and that agency contacted an agency. They showed up in one black SUV and one black Crown Vic police cruiser, like I was driving with tinted windows, and they were federal agents. So they got out and said, "We'll take over the scene from here." So the vehicle was towed off on the wrecker. The guy who hit it, never seen him again. And then we done the incident reports on what we had seen and what I had seen. And of course, our first officer on the scene, it was his case. So he also done an incident and done an accident report on the damage to the car. And all that was filed, and it all come up missing.
Wow.
And we don't know what happened to the guy, his car, what happened to the Bigfoot that was hurt. Now this Bigfoot that was hurt was he was a reddish brown black, and he was hit in the legs. And both legs were broke right below the kneecap.
Damn.
So,
And it
he
was just
in
laying
quite-
out there on the road. It was just laying on the road when you seen it.
No, when he crossed over, when he run across the road in front of this guy, when he hit him, it knocked him through a barbed wire fence. So he was
Okay.
in a cow pasture, just right off the road, maybe 15 to 18 feet, laying there, and he was
Okay.
curled up in a fetal position, but his legs were broke. He couldn't. He tried to crawl, but he couldn't crawl. He was too badly hurt.
Damn. That is wild. That is so incredible. I mean, not just the account, which is incredible enough, right? I
Mhm.
mean, that's an incredible account. But why do you think that this is being, subdued or being hidden, or what is your thoughts on it, Bruce?
Uh, the uh, the state and the government believe that the people can't handle the truth, and they don't want a lot of people in the woods hunting these things with guns and shooting at them. And at the same time, there were experiments done with these animals, where the military come in and captured them in certain areas. We had a training video when I went through law enforcement training academy to teach us how to handle these creatures.
Are you
Now,
kidding me?
a lot of lawmen won't talk about that, but we had a woman in East Tennessee who lived in a trailer with just her and her two kids, and she lived on a dead end road. When you come down so far, it was her property. When you cross through that gate, you're on her property. Well, her kids were playing in the backyard, and she could give them hot dogs. Well, they'd leave their hot dogs out there, what they didn't eat, and that ended up bringing uh, a nuclear family in who were there constantly, and she became friends with them. Now they didn't have any language to talk, but she knew what they wanted, and their biggest thing was hot dogs. They loved hot dogs. So the male would always approach her, and then she started buying cases of hot dogs and then leaving out 7 or 8 on the picnic table that was behind the trailer. And the way it got put to us, the law enforcement and the military, was that Dan Rather done a story on it.
Dan Rather.
Dan
Wow.
Rather. So it got buried real quick. I'm sure it could probably be found now if a man wanted to take the time to find it through the archives. Dan Rather done the story on it, and that brought out a lot of newspaper people. So she blocked them off from coming up the gate by locking the gate. But we had all these cameramen with these lenses, high profile lenses, zoom lenses, taking pictures of them. And one night, 3 helicopters showed up from Fort Campbell, Black Hawk helicopters, and they were,
Oh,
and the Bigfoot wasn't seen since. The nuclear family wasn't seen since. So, and
yeah.
the woman won't talk to anybody. So I don't know if they were captured. We weren't given privy information on the training video on that, certain aspects of it. And
Uh-huh.
but we did know the military come in, and then they weren't seen again after that.
What was the training video trying to train the new recruits? What was it actually doing?
Okay, secrecy. It's all
Okay.
about secrecy. How to maintain
Okay.
secrecy.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Upset.
we that training seminar, they trained us in atomic warfare. And atomic warfare is not what you think of as like nuclear bombs or nothing. Atomic warfare deals with heavy situations like this, and that if we stop certain tractor trailers on the road and a soldier comes out with a gun and stuff, says don't come any closer, we're to get back in our cars and leave and not report this because it's transporting weapons or radioactive materials. So
Wow.
that so the stop never existed. So we're trained in that.
Are you in any would you be, or are you, or will you be in any kind of trouble bringing this information forward like that?
No, no, this is stuff that was been trained on. I went to Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy in special classes, and this is
Okay.
stuff that's being trained. A lot of guys don't want to talk about that. It's still in the career. They're not going to talk about it because it could cost them their career. And then, of course,
Right.
when you get like me, I'm like, I don't care if they make fun of me. I don't care if they call me a liar or everything else. It just doesn't matter to me. I know what I
Right.
know.
Right. Right. So
You
but the thing is now, Bruce, what I've been, picking up is that it seems, I don't know if it's because of the internet and more people are talking about it because more people are coming forward, or that these creatures, these Bigfoot, these Sasquatch are multiplying, or that we're encroaching upon their area, or that they're expanding upon their area, but seems to be more and more sightings of them.
they're running out of territory, and they're moving into a lot of the forest areas that's protected. But those areas at the same time are also government controlled.
Right.
So, you're seeing park rangers are letting more people see them without their bosses and everybody else know it.
Oh, so it's kind of like backwaters letting out
It's kind of like, hey, if y'all go down
the,
this trail
letting
here,
cat out of the bag, kind of like, yeah,
go down this
right. Don't ask, don't
right,
tell.
go down this trail here, and
Mm-hmm.
you're going to see your butterflies and birds, knowing good and well they're going to walk
Uh-huh.
into a Bigfoot.
Wow. I hear a lot about that, especially out like in the Smoky Mountain area, out that way in eastern Tennessee and western North Carolina. There seems to be a heavy concentration because it is, as you were saying, a protected area. And
Right.
I know researchers, whatever, however you want to define what they are that they're doing, going in there, and there's just, there's a lot of action. There's places that people are going, like you can
There's
go
people
meet
goes
up with
in these
somebody
parks.
and say, hey man, I can show you, and they'll take you out there and show you.
Right. There's people goes in
I'm
these
sorry.
parks that
Yeah.
the park system doesn't even keep a accurate listing of the people that goes missing in these national parks, and that's intentionally done.
What do you mean by
So,
that, Bruce?
well, there's cases parks that have thousands of people going missing. Maybe 90% of them are found, and the other 10% are never found. And then when you look at the records, the records knows they're missing, but they're not counted. They're not counted publicly for the public to know. So again, that goes to the money aspect of it. So if you're losing, if you got a certain part that's losing more than usual, experienced hikers and campers and stuff, then you're not
Right.
going to advertise it. And they may be running across maybe something like I run across.
No kidding. So you're saying that maybe they're intentionally, by X's and O's, the bean counters,
Yeah.
maybe possibly putting people in harm's way. Wow.
Right, because
That's
that's
incredible,
money.
man. That is so incredible.
That's
That's
money.
so dark.
And then when you get into military installations, for instance, military
Okay.
installations generally cover several thousands of acres. Uh, land between the lakes, big dog man territory.
Big
It
dog
also
man.
it also has a Bigfoot feature, it has Sasquatch there. But there wasn't a lot of that going on until the military come in there and then opened it up to the public after so many years. Now they've got these things they can't explain going on in there. And I look at it mostly as probably experimental. Could it be aliens the government had? Could it be
Have?
stuff like that they hybrid bred in labs and turned loose? In like the LBL, I think it's 180,000 acres.
Right.
You don't know what you're going against. And the
Right.
government the government is so secretive in its doings, and especially with things that are supernatural. Uh, uh, and you asked that question about the cops not really coming forth so much anymore. If like I'm retired, I'm not in law enforcement anymore. But if you're in law enforcement and you write your report out, and that report gets slipped to the newspaper, and it's on a Bigfoot, a dog man, even a Mothman, the worst thing that any law enforcement officer wants to go through, because he has to go through it at least once in his career, is a psych exam.
A psych eval. Yeah.
And they can last from 12 to 24 hours. And if you
Dude.
have seen like that and directly disobeyed orders by letting that get out, you're going to be put through the ringer, and the outcome is not going to be good for you. You'll never work in law enforcement again.
Right. And you're probably also kind of blackballed to try to, even if you wanted to start a business and then put in certain,
Yeah, I mean, you're
paperwork so that you can get it off the ground, LLC or whatever. They can back channel you and mark you, and then you're done.
You're done. Wow. And so, a lot of people talk about this dog man and about the different things that it can do. And it's sort of, of course, I believe a lot of it. I've not knowingly seen it. I've not knowingly.
No, you haven't seen one? Okay.
Seen one, but as I'm learning more and more about it, maybe I have seen one. I've seen some Bigfoot that were extremely thin. I consider to be old. That looked, they had the hump in the back. They looked like a Bigfoot, but in the same sense, they didn't act like one. They acted more human-like than a Bigfoot, and at the same time, they would in front of you and they're gone, so it disappears.
Okay, yeah, I've heard this too. Yes, man. Yeah,
I've seen a mist in the field, and I was far from the mist in the field, and that around in Tennessee we consider normal because of we have the most densest woods in the United States. Tennessee does, and so Smoky Mountains is basically a rainforest, so it's not uncommon. Like Land Between the Lakes is bordered by two different lakes, Lake Barkley in Tennessee on one side of the other. So it's more like a peninsula, or what we'd call a spit. It's a land in between water.
Mm-hmm.
So to be a perfect place when government's doing their experiments with these type of creatures to release them at.
Right. And, for what purpose? If you had to venture a guess, what purpose would it be to do some type of experiment to alter these creatures? What would you say?
Well, my knowing guess through the government is they release them at youngs and they're hybrids to see what they turn into. They're not going to keep them locked up in labs and stuff. They need to release them, and they'll release them on military installations. If they get out of hand and they hurt somebody, then it's more easily for them to cover it up and retrieve that particular entity and destroy it.
Right. So it's like they're in the installations. Like, I mean, I was on Fort Riley. I've been in a couple forts in the States when I was there. I think of Fort Jackson, Fort Gordon. There's like in Fort Riley, there was an actual like impact zone in the middle where they would launch all their artillery and practice all their rounds and things like that. So in that area, there's a big road that goes all the way around it, all the way around the military installation. So if they can monitor that, I'm not saying that they use Fort Riley. They're probably using something more like Fort Lewis, Carson, maybe Fort Hood, something larger, something more wooded. That would be a little easier to monitor, but a lot of times, I've heard stories where military personnel are doing big bivouacs or some type of operations out there, practicing things like that, and they run across these things too. And it seems to be more often than not that this does happen. So there is some circumstantial, because none of this can be written down as we're talking the whole time, evidence supporting what you're saying. So I completely agree that this is a very likely possibility.
Yes, it's again, the government does some things. They do some experiments. They just like when they capture Bigfoot, what do they do with them? Well, now you're having more sites on government military installations, along with the dog man, where now you've got witnesses said they see dog man kill Bigfoot, and then witnesses that says they see dog man and Bigfoot work together. So,
Yes.
Yeah,
there's a lot of things going on, man. There's a lot of things going on. Do you ever think there will be a time when this will become like, opening the Sunday newspaper, or, where I'm an older guy, so Sunday newspaper or Twitter, whatever people open nowadays, and it'll be something like just normal, just like this whole UFO, thing that they're doing now? Do you think it'll be?
Yeah, I think it's normal.
Come a point of time in which they have to.
Yeah, I think it's normal now. It's just that they're doing it in stages instead of letting the public have it all at one time. If you do it in stages, it gradually, through the generation, is accepted, and it's more easier to accept it. If you just push it out all at one time, you're going to shock people and scare people.
True.
But with the Bigfoot, which my grandmother called him the hairy man, they've been around here and documented by the Indians and lithographs and caves forever. So, it's hard to, of course, I'm not into convincing people there's a Bigfoot. I'm not into convincing. I know what I see and what I do. Give you, for instance, I posted a picture of a Bigfoot who had been throwing rocks at me, but not at me. He threw rocks to warn me not to come any further. And I posted it on our site. And out of 4,000 and something views, only one other man seen it. So, it's a perception of what people are willing to accept and realize. And after COVID, more people got away from other people into the woods and started coming here from big cities buying land, and they're pushing them into these areas. And when they're pushing them in these areas, you have these sightings. Just keep building.
Yeah, so the population, I don't know if this is a word, densifies or gets more dense. So therefore, the likely possibilities of you actually seeing one increases. So yeah, that makes sense.
This has been a really good year because here in East Tennessee, we've had a bumper crop, probably one of the biggest crops I've seen in 20 or 30 years, of acorns, hickory nuts, walnuts, bumper crops and fruits, the persimmons, the fruit persimmon that grows wild, the pawpaws. We've just had an extremely bumper crop, and a lot of people are seeing them right now. And it's just the foods has been unreal for them. When we have those really bad years where we don't have good crops, meaning nut crops from the trees, then you'll see more people have incidents around their homes where their trash cans are tore up and stuff. But in those areas, there's no bears. So there's really nothing that law enforcement or the government can come back and say, "Oh, a bear did that."
Right.
Get into Middle Tennessee. We're just now getting juvenile bears in here. You might have one every 100 square miles, but Not that it's just a 3-year-old bear. It's not. He's more scared of you than most deer are people. So
Right.
you're not going to have that.
Yeah, to kind of to back up what you're saying is like, so I have two moderators of mine, Mike and Jenny Atkins, who help me run my shows and especially on my lives and things. And they live in the mountains of Western North Carolina, and they've been at this property for 2 years. And after Hurricane Helene went through, they were saying that right after that, maybe a week after that, so they live on a ridge line, and up above them, like literally it's their house, and it goes basically almost vertical up behind them. And ever since then, they've had quartz gifted to them down the bottom of their house. They've had the trash cans blocked. They've had fence posts ripped out. Like weird tree things up in the woods, like weird things that shouldn't be there, like there'll be a larger piece of like a log or a stump or something of that nature, about I don't know 3-4 inches in diameter, in like like cane area, like up in the trees. Like where did that fall from? And he actually seen one of them. And so basically during the hurricane, out in the valleys, it like basically decimated everything down there. So they kind of moved up into the mountains, which kind of once again is kind of what you're saying too. They're getting pushed into these smaller pockets or being forced to relocate. So when they're moving, people are seeing them as well. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's a very interesting time to be alive. So Frank, before I get you, yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bruce.
with all the people that's moved into Tennessee and North Carolina, and then with those floods coming through and wiping out the valley areas on a lot of the roads, you push these animals, you congregate them just like you would anything else, and just like
Right.
the people had to go higher. So you start having more interactions. Some people don't know what they've seen. Some people refuse to talk about it because, here in East Tennessee, there's a belief with the older people. When I was growing up, Dogman was around, but I didn't know it was a dogman. They called it a lion with a heavy mane. If you've seen one out, that means if you talk about it, somebody's going to die in the family or get deathly sick. So the old people wouldn't
Oh,
talk about it. And a lot of those older people and that generation still live in these mountains and still believe that. They see a Bigfoot, have an interaction with a Bigfoot, they will tell you, uh, especially if it's your family members, they will tell you, you don't bother him, let him be. My hog got sick and they cured my hog. It's
yeah,
just,
dude.
my wife got sick and they cured my wife. You hear these stories over and over, and they will tell you this is just not something we're willing to discuss and talk about.
Yes,
Some of
there's certain people who are really advert, or what's the word? They really don't want to talk about it. They say they're only this, and that's it.
Yep.
Because
And
that's what I've seen. And other people are like, no, dude, I'm seeing orbs and glowing eyes. And one
yep.
time I seen one, but my friend couldn't, or I couldn't see it. He could. And then I moved and then I could see it because it was from my vantage point, it disappeared. Like, and how do you explain that? You just can't.
Right.
It's a lot of weirdness going on, and it's human nature to want to know. So it's coming more and more forward. So before I get you out of here, man, we're almost at the hour. It went by really fast. What is next for you? Are you going to continue on, helping people? What is it that you're doing now?
Well, as I've gotten older, I kept all of mine secret. Didn't discuss it with many people, and it only discussed it with family members. As I've got older, I figured, well, I could pass a lot of this along. I'm no expert, but I could pass a little of this knowledge on. And with the
Exactly.
knowledge of the elders before me, their knowledge, and keep this knowledge going. So I was working, getting ready to work a place and involved a camper. There was a lot of strange things going on with 5 Bigfoot. And then I've talked to, by reaching out, being part of these groups and stuff, I was able to talk to a person who has certain abilities that I don't have, to say, Bruce, don't do that. That's dangerous. This is this is something more than just a Bigfoot. So as I interviewed the guy that's having the problems, a lot of the things that he told me did not have anything to do with the Bigfoot that he thought that did. I mean, he was, give you for instance, in his camper, he doesn't have a hole in the roof, but acorns were falling through the roof into these floors when this thing is outside his door. So we're talking supernatural, and that's out of my realm. That's
Yeah.
out of my experience dealing with Bigfoot.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a little bit more in my
Well,
area, actually, the things I've run across. Yeah,
he
not
put
much,
up,
but
yeah, he put up a light there outside the camper, a big, it's like a heat bulb light. It goes in a hood, and
yeah.
it showed. He took a picture of it. He took actual video of it. He took the video of it, and you can see that it forms around this light, and it's blurred. And all of a sudden, you see this light crunch in and explode. Well, that's out of my realm. He'd have to get somebody that's in the supernatural stuff to deal with that. You know,
Right. Maybe you can send me that video. I won't put it on here, but I'd love to see that. I'd love to see that.
yeah,
If you
yeah,
could ever get that
he's
to me, I'd
got
love
it.
to see it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got it.
Okay.
And he's begging me for help, and I'm just going to tell him to pour gunpowder around his boundaries. And,
Yeah, or tobacco or something. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, something like that.
sometimes,
There's some people that I do know that are up in that area that probably could help him.
yeah,
That
yeah,
they're in the Kentucky area. They
yeah,
do all kind of stuff like that where they go to properties and they talk to people who are having really weird things like that. I've never heard where acorns are falling through someone's roof, but there's no hole being there. But you never know,
right.
man. Right. So, Bruce, I'm sorry. I can have you on again for sure. We can talk about whatever you'd like. It has been very enlightening, especially all the law enforcement stuff, man. That was interesting.
Yeah,
I really appreciate that you came on today, man.
yeah. Well, I appreciate you having me.
It's
Anytime you want
been
me
my
to come
pleasure.
on, holler at me.
Yeah,
You
man,
know?
we could do that. We'll talk about what the next year will be, but sure. But
All
sure.
right.
I really appreciate that. I hope you feel better soon, my friend.
All righty. I thank you. You have a
Thank
good
you.
one. And have a
You too,
blessed
man.
night or day.
Yeah,
And,
you too as well, man. Yeah.
all
All
right.
right, guys. Hold on one second. All right, hold on. We are the Eye, and we are aware. Love you all, and have a wonderful day, night, or whatever it is you're having. Later. You have been watching the Eye of Jupiter podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification so you don't miss any of your favorite interviews. And remember, we are the Eye, and we are aware.